Good afternoon. We are all ready for the victory function, which is starting with a high-powered panel discussion with a moderator, none other than FFK. And you can see all the panel members here already seated here, getting ready to share their knowledge in this particular subject. The 2 days of conference, international conference on resource recovery. Hope it went through very well. Because I'm standing this side, so you are the ones who are enjoying this conference, so participating. You heard how did it go? Good? Thank you. Because it's a big effort. People have water conference, people have a resource, energy conference, or solid waste conference, everything it's a very specialized one. What we have done is because the requirement of the at the village levels and rural levels and the other part of the world is everything little bit each but together. So that's why we are at the resource recovery side. We have got this big triangle. So I'll just take a couple of minutes and hand over the mic back to the Cliff, so we not come in between. So yesterday and today we have got a lot of work went into. This is our 7th conference. In fact, 6 conferences we did outside, 4 in India, 1 in Bangkok, 1 virtually, and finally we landed back at our home turf and hope we did a home run. And it is also my privilege and honor to recognize our conference co-sponsors, mainly the Illinois Association of Wastewater Agencies, Indian Membrane Society, Purdue University, then Illinois Water Environment Association, NRC, IPCC, of course, University of Illinois, Chicago is the co-conference partner, and Chicago Department of Water Management, and Illinois Chamber of Commerce, Zero Waste, SHPE, and then TCF. And then the host of the business sponsors, they came and helped us to get this conference going. So today I will be the master of ceremonies for the evening ceremony. Now you can see that just one triangle here. We have got energy at the top, water and wastewater, solid waste, all interconnected. As a water and wastewater guys, we consume energy, we also produce energy. And same as the solid waste. Anything crossing of the solid waste, they consume energy, they produce energy. Probably we produce more than, we want to produce more than what we consume. Then the energy guy will supply to the people of the industry. So we are talking about when yesterday Cliff told that, yeah, I visited the Golden Triangle in India, and he made his water me, hey, it's a Golden Triangle right here. So that made me ask Cliff to come out here. Now I asked Mr. FFK, is the director of the Energy Resource Center of the University of Illinois Chicago, and the co-chair of the conference, and also the panel moderator for today. I request Cliff to introduce their panel members and go ahead with their panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, here we go. So, good afternoon, and welcome to today's panel on planning for a sustainable future, aligning community infrastructure with energy and environmental strategies. As we're we're getting to the end of this conference and pulling everything together from the energy side to water and wastewater to solid waste management. That would be nice to have a panel here that talk about sustainability. As we face the growing pressure of climate change, aging infrastructure, and evolving community needs, this conversation could be more timely or more critical. Our goal today is to explore how integrated planning across water, energy, and waste systems can drive sustainable development, resilience, and innovation at the community level. So I'm honored here to be with my esteemed panelists here, a number of leaders here who work spans of public utilities, engineering, global infrastructure, and advanced environmental technologies, each offering unique insights into how we can build a more sustainable, connected future. So I'm going to do a one-sentence introduction to all of you, and then I'm going to eventually turn it over to you all. So I'll start here from, am I right? No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, right, left, whatever. This gentleman right here next to me. So Martin Jacobson is a senior engineer for strategic energy management at management's been a long 2 days, but a good 2 days, at ComEd, driving energy efficiency and sustainability initiatives across the utility service territory. ComEd is the northern region here of Illinois. Next to Martin, we have Dr. Catherine O'Connor, serves as Director of Engineering at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, leading innovative projects that integrate environmental stewardship with engineering excellence. Next to Catherine, we have Dr. Sharon Waller, who is a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, where she champions sustainable water and infrastructure solutions. Next, we have Paul Baker, who represents Gill Associates, contributing engineering expertise in environmental technologies and sustainable infrastructure systems. And last but not least, we have Dr. Uday Kalkar, who is the CEO of NJS Engineers India, bringing global expertise in integrated water and environmental infrastructure planning and implementation. So please give another round of applause for our So as we look at the sustainable future, what will this look like? I was in the energy track the entire time, but there were challenges that were brought up, maybe some scary challenges. How are we going to meet the growing energy demand? And I'm sure there were issues and challenges and demands on the water wastewater side, but also on the solid waste management side. But there's also opportunities for innovation and bringing solutions to the table. So I'd like each panelist to go, if we don't mind, from Marty on. If you give 1 or 2 minutes of your organization and what your organization and you are doing to impact energy and environmental strategies and community infrastructure. So, Marty.
Well, thank you, Cliff. Thanks for having me. For ComEd, we're always a trusted partner with all of our customers. We serve about 4 million customers throughout the Northern Illinois region, if you don't know. And we are big on sustainability. We're always trying to get energy efficiency, solar, wind, and make that process good for everyone. And we're also working on the dependability of our entire system with all the climate change, more destruction, things happening with the transmission system, and always trying to make it a little bit more reliable for everybody. And we're also trying to bring our costs down and be a good cost provider for our energy and be a trusted source for you for energy efficiency and also for distribution and all your interconnection needs.
Great, thank you, Marty. Catherine?
Good afternoon, Catherine O'Connor, Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. There was a presentation yesterday. One of my colleagues talked about our stormwater management program. We are the wastewater and stormwater utility for essentially Cook County, Illinois. We have been granted the status of being the utility of the future under our terrific leadership, where we recover resources, we recover phosphorus, a phosphorus-rich fertilizer. We have roughly a $50 million electricity bill, which ComEd has been working with us on energy efficiency, we just mentioned here. Variable speed drives and anything we can do for energy efficiency, we're very motivated there, and we see an awful lot, we have a lot to talk about on our sustainability initiatives. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Commissioner Waller.
My name is Sharon Waller. I am an elected commissioner of MWRD. All opinions are my own and not necessarily those of the district. Legal makes me say that. So I'm proof that staff and commissioners, elected commissioners, can work together. So I'm very happy to be here with Dr. O'Connor. What led me to run, I'm a 30-year water engineer with a PhD in water quality, 30 years experience mostly on the drinking water side. In 2016, I was working for the state of California on a research project to determine if direct potable reuse was Feasible? Yes, is the answer after 33 projects. I was just one of those projects. But that gave me the language to look at our codes here in Illinois, and I was shocked to learn that we discourage irrigation reuse, and we basically make it illegal to reuse water in any other manner. We in Illinois basically regulate our wastewater based on history of last use instead of quality. So that would be fine.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Hall, from the engineering perspective.
My name is Paul Baker, and I represent Guild Associates. We're out of Dublin, Ohio, and we are a manufacturer of biogas cleanup equipment. So we manufacture the equipment that will take biogas generated from a wastewater treatment plant, anaerobic digester, and upgrade it so it can be put in the pipeline as RNG. We feature systems that will go as low as 50 SCFM, which would be sufficient approximately for a 5 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant, and we have sizes much above that. Our equipment is located at approximately 10 wastewater treatment plants across the United States, and we are currently in contract with a few more.
Great, thank you. Paul.
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Baker. I've been working in India for the last about 20 odd years, spent 15 years here in the US. Did a lot of projects almost all over the US, and I agree with you, ma'am. Recycle, reuse is possible. You can get a drinkable quality wastewater. And we're doing first project in India under sustainability in Mumbai to showcase a 3 MGD plant. It's going on live next month. So there is a sustainability. We need to look at it for water side. Everybody's on the water side to look at water and energy nexus. So we need to make sure that we reduce the amount of energy for our wastewater plants and increase the energy through various combinations thereof, using natural gas and anything else that is possible. And another second one project that we're starting to do is why not to use wastewater that is highly treated for generation of green hydrogen for sustainability. Because every kg of oxygen or every kg of green hydrogen generated, you need 20 kgs of fresh water. So if you save that 20 kg of wastewater or water, that will be sustainable using the same wastewater that is highly treated. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. So you can see we have a panel of, there's variety here. We have the United States, we have India, we have representation of small plants, large plants. We have the water utility, we have the electric utility, we have the technology and the engineers. So as we give all these remarks and comments, think about the broad spectrum of all different sizes and shapes of these treatment facilities. Okay, panelists, and whoever wants to go first, I guess we didn't even talk about who wants to go first, but feel free to answer a question. Not everyone has to chime in on every question, but let's look at our first question. Looking across your organizations, how are long-term infrastructure plans evolving to address both energy resilience and climate risk simultaneously? Who wants to be the first brave soul here? How are long-term infrastructure plans evolving?
I think to answer your question, this has to be a joint program between consultants, clients, and government. Because long-term sustainability and climate change is reality. I'll give you one small example. Suddenly you get a rain with high intensity and very short duration, and we get flooded. So if you want to make that sustainability for a longer period, obviously government needs to find funds, because that's been critical of them many times, and the consultant needs to work to see how much funds they can save of the government while providing a sustainable solution. We don't want to put a high tag to it. We want to make sure that everybody gets the cost for the best buck that they can spend.
You're saying it's partnerships and working together.
It has to be a partnership. You can't do it alone.
And we want to talk more about that, how that's evolving, how you see these partnerships working? Any projects?
I would jump in. In 1972, our Board of Commissioners, Water Reclamation District passed the Tunnel and Reservoir Plan as our long-term control plan for both stormwater management and to protect our waterways. So it was a pollution control effort and flood resilient measure. Now we've gotten terrible, terrible storms, and that's part of our presentation that we'll be giving later, where people are flooded. In fact, in Cicero, Illinois, one family lost both family cars from the flooding. The rain was so intense, and that was prior to our tunnel, much less our reservoirs filling. So the intensity of the rain, we don't see a need to increase the size with climate change, increase the size of our reservoirs. We need local storage. We need flood resilience. So I think we are kind of backing in, and we're forced to deal with climate change, and we need, and on top of that, we do need some innovation on how to protect structures from flooding. So that's my answer to that. How do we alleviate flooding? The water's coming much faster. So we deal with droughts and then rain events. It's all correlated.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So in my consulting work, I've done a bunch of risk and resilience assessments. This came out of the Bioterrorism Act of 2002, and then it's been updated in 2016. And from this work, I learned that loss of energy and communication is really one of our key kind of pivotal things. Once you take away the energy, you're basically not treating water anymore. But then also the risk associated with natural disasters far exceeds anything else we could possibly imagine, including Al-Qaeda landing on our roof. And then additionally, we really need to identify alternative water sources everywhere. And the most common, the obvious thing that we're just not looking at is our wastewater, which is highly treated. So we have new 10 state standards which apply to all of the great states and most of the Mississippi River Basin that recommends best available source. And the new edition dated 2022 actually gives guidance based on quality to determine the best available source based on quality. And again, this is Illinois takes a different approach and does not consider quality. They consider it based on last history. So that needs to change because it's basically eliminating half of the water that we might be able to consider, which is that's a quality issue, but then we've also got the excess water from the increases in extreme weather floodings. So these two things that can be addressed with the same technology.
Would any of you say that the industry maybe has to be more proactive now moving forward than maybe we were more reactive in the past with climate change and these other activities happening? Are you seeing the industry trying to be more proactive now from anybody's perspective? Are you seeing it, or do you have to get there?
I think we just need a complete reimagination because our rules were made 50 years ago. And the 200-foot setback for wastewater irrigation in our Illinois code predates the Clean Water Act of 1972, and we're acting like nothing changed. So I think we just need to take a look at all of our codes and look at it through the eyes of our children instead of just making small changes and adjustments as we go, because the world is changing quickly, faster than we are changing.
Any other comments on that? Okay, let's go to the next question. What are you looking or seeing as the challenges or barriers when trying to align energy, water, environmental goals within infrastructure planning and trying to develop and implement these sustainable energy solutions? So what are you seeing as the primary barriers or challenges to making things happen?
Well, in the wastewater industry, and this has been reported countrywide, our dry weather flows are down. So that's a big positive. Here in Chicago, we really have not had a concerted, organized water conservation effort like they've had in Texas and California and even New York City for other reasons. We haven't had it, and our Bryan Water Reclamation Plant in 1990 was treating on the order of 290 million gallons per day. Now they're just over 200 million gallons per day, and dry weather flow is about 164 million gallons per day. My colleagues are here, they could nod or shake their head that I'm incorrect. So this, and most of this is Energy Star appliances. Randy Connor, the Commissioner of Water Management, was here yesterday. He talked about water main replacement for the city of Chicago. All those leaky water mains, he said 40% loss, those were getting into our combined system and diluting our wastewater. Now we have the benefit of much stronger, higher strength waste that we're treating, so our process is becoming much more efficient. So I see this just the opposite of what you're saying. That's making us more energy efficient, it's making the biological process more efficient, and we are very sustainably removing phosphorus to low levels, but not low enough as Steve McCracken is dealing with the Sierra Club and people that want extremely low levels. That's something we want to talk about. The environmental cost of, we should limit best available technology to the biological process for water treatment, in my humble opinion.
Sure, thank you. Other barriers or challenges? Paul?
I'll just mention from a renewable energy standpoint, as far as utilization of biogas from the anaerobic digesters, it's really not well known in the community how valuable that gas is. And in the United States, that value can be anywhere between typically $30 to $50 per MMBTU, when the actual equivalent molecules of conventional natural gas are only worth $2.50. So to develop that into either a RNG system or into a CHP system or anything like that can be a revenue source that can be, one, a source of pride within the community, because you'll have a lot of people wanting to come and see the facility and see what you're doing in that. And that can bring an esprit de corps that doesn't exist with your typical wastewater treatment plant. And the second thing that really comes from that is one of the major difficulties we have with, not necessarily us, we just provide the equipment, but our customers who then put the entire system together. One of the major issues they have is actually dealing with the gas companies to accept the gas. They have a hard time believing that we're giving you something that's actually better and more pure than what they're getting from their natural gas suppliers on the pipeline. So that's my comment there.
Commissioner?
So the broad theme for me is institutional barriers. So I've talked about our administrative code, but I'd also like to just mention that we have business barriers as well. So the small utilities where water and wastewater are in the same financial district are going to be better able to make changes towards recycling water, both for industry, so data centers are coming, but then also irrigation and eventually recharging aquifers through, which is potable reuse. And where water and wastewater are in separate financial districts, as in the city of Chicago and the county of Cook, they compete, and this is not helpful. So we need to make memorandums of understanding about how we're going to share this finance and think about the broad need for change versus, not versus, but both and, keeping our budgets whole to maintain the infrastructure and not, hopefully not raise taxes, but that's because we like the people that do the budget, right? So that's not gonna happen, we can't raise the budget.
Definitely balancing the budgets. Marty, I'm putting this spot a little bit education-wise. When your teams go into, as the electric utility or promoting energy efficiency programs, strategic energy management, do you see these wastewater treatment plant utilities fully educated, or do they need a lot more education? Is your team able to help and support them? Where are you seeing their educational levels of helping with their goals and their sustainability goals, energy related?
That's a good question. And really, the operators they know their plants pretty well. And there are always a little bit of differences in how people go about their work. But with the whole big area that we have, we see a lot of differences. Most are educated about their plants. We're going down to the team members, right? Everybody working on it. So the same thing, and understanding why they're doing the process, which is really kind of key, right? So it's instead of just one person understanding the whole process, especially when you're in a smaller plant, how does it affect everybody else, right? And how does it affect, so we're doing an awful lot of education with wastewater and with the team, just to bring things together, bring their teams together. So MWD is a great example of doing that and bringing multiple plants together to learn about energy efficiency together and some of the processes and how they can make them a little more efficient, really, right? Which helps everybody, right? Cost for more things. I was going to, so not only we focus on operational things, right? So things that can make a difference right away. And you see that over the long haul, but sometimes it's just standard operating work, right? How do you do things, right? You see that whether it's wastewater plants, or whether it's water plant, or whether it's industrial processes, right? So I was going to say the biggest challenge is capital and finding some of your capital and some of the capital projects and getting the dollars and getting funded for these projects, right? How do you relate them to all the other projects that are going on, especially with energy efficiency or by pumping? Well, how do we make sure that what we're doing and our plans are strategic and they make sense, and when to say, hey, we need something that's more efficient than what we're providing right now. So I think there's a lot of great things with CHP, with biogas, and we're doing a lot in supporting a lot of that.
Great. Now pivoting, we talked about various challenges. Commissioner, you kind of alluded to this, that we need to think a little bit differently. We got to look at everything, the previous regulations, look at all those, but with everyone, what are new strategies, promising technologies, or alternative financing approaches that maybe you all might be seeing or may be aware of that could advance both environmental compliance and resource recovery goals? So what can we look forward to try to overcome what we have right now? What could be new? What could be promising?
New York. So,
Please
I think the way my thought process goes is, okay, so Chicago is a very old combined sewer system. So looking at newer cities that don't have our challenges is just not really helpful. But New York is an old city with a combined sewer system that's made great strides. They have the benefit of having water and wastewater in the same financial district, same financial center, so they don't compete. But when faced with a consent decree to reduce their combined sewer overflows, they created an award-winning grant program to incentivize water conservation and reuse. And that has led to awesome projects, including the Brooklyn waterfront, Domino sugar redevelopment, where after a big rain, the Brooklyn waterfront smelled like poop. And now that 11 acres, 5 buildings is served by a 400 gallon per day on-site distributed treatment system that serves all of those buildings, 3 of the 5 buildings, with non-potable water. And that is an ROI, return on investment, of 14 years, because the potable source that they still purchase from New York, City of New York, is reduced cost. So that would be flat out heresy to suggest such a thing would happen in Chicago right now, but just because I can name it, I have confidence that it can happen in my lifetime.
So it's learning from others, lessons learned. We don't have to recreate the wheel, someone's already done this before. So, Paul, you were going to go next.
Yeah, you mentioned alternative funding. And for renewable projects, there are developers out there that are willing to take on all of the risk. And so you would basically contract with them to have them purchase the biogas at a set price. And then they take all the risk of building the equipment, running the equipment, and then selling the credits on the open market. There are also other ways in which you can participate, and there's a minimum profit level they make, and then there's a level of profit that's shared. So when considering these type of renewable projects, just consider that it could be all sorts of options available. And since you mentioned New York, I just wanted to mention that New York has installed and has run our equipment at one of their facilities. And while it was a very frustrating project to get through a fire marshal, on that. It is running well, and so this is something that can work in the midst of a large city.
It's great to hear.
And one thing we've done with creative financing in our stormwater program, and Commissioner Avalo is here, he was one of the brave, part of the leadership that went to the Illinois legislature and said, we would like to have the authorization to work on local stormwater partnerships. So now whenever we do a stormwater project, we're working with the Illinois Department of Transportation, the Cook County Forest Preserve District, the Chicago Park District, and we're stretching funds. They're improving a detention reservoir. We put in the funds to expand that to get better protection. So for every dollar we spend in stormwater, we get 50 cents from another agency and maximize the benefit to our residents.
That's great to hear some of these new strategies, alternative financing. Paul, if you don't mind sharing some that you shared in our energy track about the landfills that they will have to divert food waste. You can touch on that topic, but then after that, Dr. Kelker, maybe if you can, what else might be innovating, on that side of the world, that we can maybe think about too. So first, Paul, just this, what landfills are facing, a challenge, but it could be an opportunity for another sector, right?
Yes. So the topic of my discussion this morning was organics diversion from landfills. So there is a movement afoot. There's 7 states right now that have legislation out there passed where they want to divert organics from landfills. And the whole purpose of this is landfills are very difficult to, nobody wants to build a new one. And so in order to extend the life of the existing ones, if they can divert organics from there, they will have a longer lifetime. They're not telling you what you have to do or what you can do with these diverted organics. What I'm suggesting is one option, specifically with food waste, is it can be co-digested with the wastewater treatment plant, and that has some very unique opportunities for creating more biogas and also creating a revenue stream where you can get tipping fees. And on top of that, since these are mandates that are coming from the states, there probably will be either grants available from the standpoint of demonstration projects, or flat out, you're going to be solving a problem or part of the solution for a problem. And so I think there's going to be more more avenues for you to obtain funds for these things.
Thank you.
I think on the other side, the sustainability really comes into picture when you're pressed against the wall. Take an example of electricity not having enough generation capacity, so you go into solar panels. State of Rajasthan, which is the western side, most of it is desert, but they have put in a large amount of solar panels. So does some of the treatment processes in Chennai, which is south side, requires water. They have water, but no water also, because it rains heavily and drains down directly into the sea. So they have a lot of water problems, so they're doing desalination. But they're now coming up with the idea of wastewater recycle and reuse, putting the water back into the reservoir and then using it from the other side. So use of that all happens sustainability, but it's not only an engineered or a government-owned word, but you have to have a full education to the public why you want to do it and how do we save that. Because of that public education and public awareness campaigns, the sustainability gets more strength in doing it and involvement into the process. But just told about that FOG, food and other things, have been pushed into India heavily, because if you're doing a digestion, let's do this, because in wastewater that is coming up in India, typically the VOCs are lesser percentage as compared to the Western world. It's about 35 to 40% only. So if you take the waste from restaurants, if you take waste from agriculture side, if you take from agriculture area and then squash it and put it back into this digestion, you get a much better energy generation. And there are plants now which are operating, which brings back almost 60% of electricity back into the plant, so thereby saving that particular aspect of it. So I think there are things happening. People are looking very strongly, but again, if you really want to maintain the full stream going ahead, most of the time for the sustainability thing, you need to start giving people some percentage of advantage in doing that. Why would people come and use that if you don't give them an incentive? So initially give them an incentive, bring it back to the level of acceptance, and then they will move thoroughly onto the process. So I think that's the way to go in. That's happened in the last 10 years or so. It's moving into that direction very strongly.
Okay, great point on incentives. Okay, I'm going to ask a question, and I want to turn over to the audience if any of you have questions for our panelists here. Think about sustainability. Talk about the barriers, the challenges, maybe new opportunities, new strategies. I'm interested if there's any comments on this one. So given the pace of policy, we've heard it's kind of slow, but maybe it's rapid as well. The policy, regulatory, and funding changes, especially at the federal and state levels. How can wastewater agencies and firms stay agile while still planning for long-term outcomes? Policies change, but how do you keep that far-off vision and goals in place? How do you navigate through all that? You've got large plants, small plants, the industry.
First of all, yeah, operational. How are you operating your plant, right? Making those small changes to, so you don't have those capital projects. Sometimes that can offset the capital projects, make something run longer, provide more reliability if you're taking care of the process. So, and then getting the incentives is a big part of that. So, especially when capital is tight, right? Financing will be tight.
Well, we are currently experiencing a couple of funding snags from the federal government. I won't go into detail, but our long-term vision has to be solid. We want water reuse. We're the utility of the future. We want to maximize the phosphorus that we return to the economy. We want nutrient-rich fertilizer, biosolids amendment, right? Those are our core goals. We want nutrient management, carbon management, and the most energy efficient that we can be, and we can't let current politics or fear the state revolt. We rely, in some years, 100% of our capital program was funded by the state revolving loan fund. Now there's grumblings, and I mean, that is such a successful program. That money goes back in, we pay it back, that's a very reasonable financing. We have to ignore anything that's happening right now and have that 10 or 20-year vision.
The state revolving fund is a, so that's $2.5 billion being cut from the state revolving fund. So when I started running, I had 3 goals that I set out. One is to repeal the prohibition on water reuse in the state of Illinois. We got the legislation piece. We still are working on other ways to get that done. For chemical source control, which actually could pass our state house on the 1st, which is amazing, right? So it can happen faster than you think it can if you can name it and boil it down to 2 sentences that you can make an ask to somebody in an elevator. So we in the Midwest have been called a climate haven, and industry's coming. It would be great if we could prepare for them. So most notably data centers. If we had the luxury of completely doing a do-over on urban planning, every wastewater plant would be surrounded by industry. And industry would be reusing that water. We're in a little bit of a pickle because we are kind of surrounded by residential. But as land comes available, we could be purchasing that and reserving it for industry. So we can't, at least for the next 2 years, rely on federal funding. But if we grow our local regional economies and have a sellable product based on its quality instead of its history, we start reducing our reliance on federal.
How about Paul or Dr. Kelker, navigating through policies, regulatory, we've heard from the electric utility talk about processes, the municipal wastewater treatment plant keep staying with their goals. You two, from the engineering technology solutions perspective, what are you seeing now in the plants? with maybe ups and downs on policies, maybe uncertainty? Are you seeing slower decision making, pausing, business as usual? Can you provide that perspective as you two are probably going into these plants and talking about it?
From a standpoint of the EPA and the renewable fuel standard and such, regardless of the administration, I see that being relatively consistent simply because it is U.S. law, and changes to it have to come through Congress. And I don't think Congress has that anywhere in their top 15 things that they want to deal with right now. So I think the pricing that's out there and the regulations are going to be steady for not only through this administration, but one or two more after that.
I think the same issues, the political side also need to get educated why it is required and what is the benefit to it, and how it will benefit their own areas where they come from, and that's very important to get them. Once they get educated and they see that there's a benefit to it, I think it happens without any issues. Particularly in India, because I speak like I'm an Indian, but I'm an American working in India, bringing in different perspectives. But still looking at that conditions, we see that they're moving ahead with a strong sustainability record saying that we will do this. And the new government, or the Modi government in the last 15 years, has really pushed into that direction. A classical example is you are building several wastewater plants. They don't have the money, but here comes the World Bank, gives them the backing. The central government takes the full backing and says, okay, go for hybrid energy or PPP model, where the concessionaire comes in, builds the plant, operates it for the next 15 years, only 40% it gets upfront in 3 years, and then the next 15 years gets the 60% gets spread over. It is happening, but at least it is helping to clean and moving into that sustainability direction. So education-wise and both the political side, if it's strong enough understands, I think it's happening.
You know, it seems like a lot of these plants need to stay focused on their goals. They're trying to do that and trying to navigate through those. Are there any questions from the audience that folks might have regarding sustainability? For the panelists here. Question here?
That's okay.
Can someone maybe run a microphone? If you don't mind keeping that one out there, I'll just share.
Well, it has been mentioned that New York is doing a better job than Chicago, and Texas and California is also doing a better job. What about internationally? What do we want to learn from other countries on waste and water management?
So trying to learn from other countries?
Yes.
Nobody was suggesting that New York's better than Chicago.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
The newly appointed pope is from Chicago.
That is what I heard.
And the last plug out of Chicago is we have the largest phosphorus recovery from wastewater plant at the Stickney Water Reclamation Plant. So I think that plenty of countries, some of our colleagues just got back from Denmark, and they claim that they're energy positive. I don't mean claim as if it's not correct. They use an awful lot less water. Their water is much more concentrated, making the biological process much more efficient. So we are in conversation internationally, but Chicago's very water proud, and we were the first secondary wastewater treatment plants in the United States. So, but we are here we are together with many of our colleagues from India.
Here in the county have economies of scale, and there's a balance to be had there. So some of these small utilities are really going to be hurting for funds now as we move into the need for higher treatment, especially for forever chemicals that are in our potable aquifers. And so they're going to be forced to merge to access that economy of scale. So we are the ultimate in economies of scale, but that also is like a cruise liner that's hard to turn. Not completely unlike our federal government, right? Which we're kind of thankful for in some ways right now, hopefully. So we just need to be aware of our barriers and our benefits. And this is why we come together in conferences like this to share best practices and where we can be frank with each other about our challenges and figure out who's doing a better job on that one issue or category.
Yes, this side.
Nicholas. Hi, Sharon, you talked about the conflict between departments, MWRD, maybe the Department of Water. That is one thing that we can't have as taxpayers, because both support us and our processes. Isn't it incumbent upon you, the elected officials, and the public utilities to work things out to optimize things for the taxpayers?
We're different jurisdictions. Every single time I see MWRD and Chicago Department of Water Management on a panel together, I say, it is so great to see you presenting together. When can we see more of that? And it just gets a smile, but I am kind of a push and charm kind of girl. I'm not gonna deliberately try to offend people because I just don't think that that's the way to go. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, fight for what you believe in, but do it in a way that brings people to join you. So how do we get all of our water departments that are not in the same financial center to join? I think naming it as a benefit is a start, but you also have to keep in mind that these are different jurisdictions with different electorates.
And just a follow-up question on the efficiency, you're saying, you know, you got scale, but with scale, that you didn't use a Titanic, you use something else, but it's slower moving. The planet and our grandchildren can't afford us to be slow. We need to do action. We need to take action, and there are a lot of actionable things to do today. We gotta do it faster. As a public utility, as an elected official, please try to lead us to be more responsive and urgent. Thank you.
There's some questions over here, if you don't mind joining in.
Thank you. Marcello Piglia, I'm a senior research engineer with the University of Chicago. Speaking about New York again and organic waste diversion. So New York is trying to scale up the diversion of organic waste from landfills, partnering with wastewater treatment department, so and diverting the organic waste towards the anaerobic digestion in the wastewater treatment plant. Do you see something like that happening in the Chicago area at this scale? So scaling up the diversion of food waste to wastewater treatment plants.
We investigated them in great detail a number of years ago, and my understanding from my memory is that our Stickney, the largest water reclamation plant that we operate, the 1.2 billion gallon a day facility, that they don't have excess digester capacity. However, our Calumet plant does have excess digester capacity, and in the Chicagoland region, the Downers Grove Sanitation District does accept fats, oil, and grease, and they do generate excess electricity. So that certainly is the future. We do need to understand markets and work with communities. That is very positive use of infrastructure.
Hello, I am Engineer Asghar Ahmed from Aligarh Muslim University, and with reference to India especially, the river Ganges is one of the most polluted rivers. So, is there any action plan going on to clean it? Thank you.
I think there are a couple of people working on NMCGs, that is National Mission for Clean Ganga. What difference has happened between 2014 to now is up till they were looking at rivers as a single entity, not looking at rivers as its entire area, including the river basins. The difference that has happened under NMCG with the funding block given through World Bank is they're looking at river as an entire basin. And that's why if you look at Ganga, which flows almost 22 to 2,300 kilometers through 6 states, they are covering almost entire river basin, including Yamuna, Chali, Kali, Gangotri, and several others into bracket. And because of that, what they have started to do is they have started to look at it within the 6 days, which are the areas that are more polluted. And what has turned out is near Kanpur, where it's all most of the tanneries that are being turned out, there is a nala called Tanau that has been completely blocked under a 400 MLD or 400,000 meter cube per day plant that has been set up by a contractor called Babak. There have been plants under Varanasi, which is also 140,000 meter cube per day. So there are about 38 plants currently under construction. 10 of them are completed. And if you look at the data from 2015 till date today, that the water quality has substantially improved in terms. The flora and fauna has come back. You can get bottleneck dolphins. You can see bottleneck dolphins. You can get turtles back in there. So it is happening. First of all, we need to keep in mind that any river cleaning or any sustainability doesn't happen with a snap of a finger. It takes a longer time. It's a continuous process. I mean, I worked on a project for 10 years in US from looking at city of Detroit River. It takes longer time. It's a continuous process. So it is happening under National Mission for Clean Ganga, and it will continue to work. And because of the efforts, I believe the international community and UN awarded the government of India a perfect, full-scale, people-to-people conversation project for this particular in last 2023, I think. So yes, it's there. And now they have taken this particular model of river basin into several rivers into India, which is including Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, Periyar, and several others. So it's happening from 24 onwards.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear those success stories, and they take time, right? Yeah. But it's being diligent too, right? Staying focused. Other questions up front here, Dr. Todd? You got a microphone coming up too.
You don't need mic.
How many, let's start with the question. And Commissioner Waller walked here. I have a question for you panel members. How many of you watched color bun? How many of the panel members watched that button right there?
Oh, this one.
You know what it is.
Okay.
I'm asking the other guys. Nobody. But I did. You watched it? Those are sustainable development goals, 17 of them.
Yes.
Thanks for the conference organizers, because SDG 6 and SDG 7, they're related to water, and number 7 is energy. Thank you. Isn't this, workshop or whatever you want to call it, panel discussion. Now, my question to you is, water reclamation produces something like 1 billion gallons of pure effluent, water effluent, that in awards and so forth. Produce a lot of biogas. 1939 in India, whole of Dadar was powered by biogas. They supplied the gas into the houses. Okay? Clean energy, affordable, and that is it, number 7 goal, to provide it. So what kind of synthesis we're going to make it? We produce a lot of clean water, a lot of biogas. What can we teach to the Indians? Because the sustainable development goals, probably with the money and power that USA has and the developing countries have, they could probably do it in spite of producing the greatest amount of emissions. But countries like developing economies like India or other countries, how can we translate our knowledge to make them use clean effluents or make clean effluents and provide them with sustainable energy for them, affordable energy? Can you tell them what you can do?
I think, Tata, I can answer your question. You don't need to teach them, they already learned from you. And that's why they're moving ahead. Kindly be noted that though I'm an American, still saying this proudly that India is now the 4th largest economy. So believe me, it will next 2-3 years it will become 3rd and the 2nd too. So they have already learned how to be there. The only issue there is how they manage their population and bring the things together. So without what they have learned from here and all the Western countries, they would not have adopted. But what they have done best is taken what was done here, many years times research. I mean, not just the research has been going on for last so many years, including research at Stanford and Cornell and other places, but never applied heavily here to use the energy which they have applied in a shorter period of time. So they're learning faster because they see what's opportunity for them there. And now we have to pick up on energy and energy resource because we are very strong in energy here. We have a lot of energy available. We have a lot of water available. For example, when I was in Michigan, when I talked about recycle reuse, people looked at me like I was an idiot because they have a lot of water next door. Why would I use it? But again, if they are pushed against the wall, you need to start thinking at that, and that's what happened.
I personally think it's a little dangerous to think that anybody is a know-it-all. We are here at conference to learn from each other. So India's been doing distributed reuse at least as long as New York was. And there's a case study that's highlighted in the Brave Blue World documentary film that was put out during the pandemic. So it didn't get the runtime that it deserved. But I highly recommend everybody to check that out. It's probably still on Netflix. I understand there's a sequel coming out in the next year.
Okay, we're coming to the end here. I want to have each panelist give one final thought, one final sentence on helping all the audience members, as Commissioner just shared. We're here at a conference to learn, to be inspired. But what's one sentence, one final thought to help audience members stay motivated, be inspired, think about and move forward in planning with a sustainable future? Let's start down with Dr. Kelger, and then we'll end the party.
I think we just need to continue this process. We can't stop. We have to do it, whether there's funding available or not. We need to find new resources, keep on going, so that our children's students will be more beneficial down the road. Keep that thought in mind and just continue doing it.
Keep our future generation in mind.
Yeah, there will be obstacles, for sure, but we need to see how we pass by and keep on going.
Great. Paul?
I guess I would advocate for speed, and I would say that just remember the good is not the enemy of the perfect. And so don't always strive for a perfect solution because there is no such thing as a solution. There are only trade-offs. And one of the trade-offs you have when you look for the perfect solution is you delay it by 1 year, 2 years, 7 years, 10 years. And suddenly you're looking at it and saying, I missed all this opportunity to improve.
There you go. That's a good point. Thank you. Commissioner?
Okay, so I totally think differently. I'm not that new, but just like I'm a different kind of thinker. So
that's why we have a panel up here.
Right. So in all of my decision making, personal, professional, I think about like if you could just do everything over, what would the right answer be? Like if we didn't have any of these barriers, we just have a clean slate, what does that look like? And then you back it up to reality and you try to take that tiny baby step forward. But if you can identify what perfect does look like, I don't really believe in perfect, but the ideal solution, then you can make better long-term solutions. For instance, on reuse, extending a regional purple pipe is a sunk asset in Florida. And they don't want to use that water just for irrigation anymore. And so that additional infrastructure with all the heartache of land acquisition and eminent domain is now not even in service long enough to repay for that asset. So we need to acknowledge that it's the water cycle and all water should just be judged based on quality.
I learned so much here. I loved the presentation on zero waste and how to make the manufacturers part owner of all packaged goods. I find it shocking that we haven't done away with landfills and we don't compost but I have to say, if you own a home, whether it's here or California, wherever you live, please disconnect your downspouts and plant a tree. Direct all your roof flow to some green space, dig a rain garden. We have a self-help on our website, the Green Neighbor Guide. That's a big step forward for stormwater management and clean air and transpiration, etc. So thank you. I learned an awful lot here, and I'm grateful to be here.
So the big solutions and some of the smaller, easier solutions. They add up.
Yeah, something that caught my attention was just partnerships throughout everything, whether it's you know, who you partner with and trusted partners, right? When you're doing work, planning, strategizing, how important it is to make those partnerships and keep them going.
Great. Well, please thank our panelists.